Hello and welcome back. On behalf of World Mizrahi, it is a tremendous zchut now in the month of Nisan, the month of Geula, to welcome, or I should say be welcomed, in celebrity chef Jamie Geller's kitchen. And this time, notice, without masks, without social distancing, truly feeling the Geula this month as Baruch Hashem, even as we started together Chanukah, from the time of light, now at the time of the real Hitgalut, really revelation, and Baruch Hashem,
amazing.
The Briyut.
And we should say we are following the guidelines according to the health ministry. You know, we didn't make this up here, and we do have fresh air coming through, but you feel spring in the air. You feel a sense of just, joy and redemption, Geula, just around the corner. It's palatable.
And even this morning, as I said, I'm so excited to join Jamie again. And my husband said, this time it's a chazaka.
Yes.
And it really is wonderful.
I love that.
And the truth is that this is the Chag, perhaps more than any other Chag, Chag HaPesach, where we have to incorporate the Torah together with the food, because on the night of the Seder, the two go hand in hand. So much so that Rabban Gamliel says, Kol shelo amar shlosha dvarim elu bepesach, lo yatsa yedei chobato, Pesach matzah maror. And there's a machloket rishonim, whether that means that if you didn't say Pesach matzah maror, if you didn't speak about it enough, that you weren't yotze, you did not fulfill your obligation of the eating or of the sipur, because the eating and the storytelling really go hand in hand. So Jamie, we're going to do a lot of talking, and there's Rav Hashem, a lot of cooking, eventually for eating, so that we understand how every aspect really of the Leil HaSeder and of Pesach in general are going to be integrated one with the other.
I'm so excited. You're getting me so excited for the holiday, and I love that we have this build-up of the month of Nisan. My daughter was born in Rosh Chodesh Nisan, so for me, 16 years ago, I became a mother, and it's just this whole time is a special time, and the Seder, it's like I can't not wait for it. And here in Israel, we only have one, so we've got to really, really make the most of it. Outside of Israel, obviously, you have two chances to get it right, but I think we all want to get it right the first time, and the second time is just whoever who's doing that to elevate it.
That's right, and this year is a very special year, not only because we have Shabbos going into Leil HaSeder, but the way that the dates work out is actually the same way that it worked out the year after Yetziat Mitzrayim, the year that we consecrated the Mikdash, the inauguration of the Mishkan. That begins on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and then the dates, the actual date of Rosh Chodesh Nisan came out just as it did by us, and on a Sunday, on a Yom Rishon. So we have the same time, and every time we think about the hectic nature, as you spoke about, I always go back to that Pesach, not necessarily the one in Mitzrayim, but the one in the Midbar, because they only celebrated one in the Midbar at the time of Chanukat HaMishkan, because there was so much going on. We have Moshe inaugurating the Mishkan, we have all the Kohanim there inaugurating the Mishkan, we have the Nesiim inaugurating the Mishkan, and then in the midst of this hectic nature, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, just remember, in 14 days from now, you're going to be celebrating Chag HaPesach. And I keep thinking, okay, no matter how hectic things are, they're definitely not as hectic as they were then. So we're going to take a deep breath, and we're going to enjoy every aspect of the preparation.
I love that perspective. I love you always put everything in perspective, and you calm me down in the kitchen. I always say cook in a good mood, cook inspired, your food will come out better, so thank you for that. So we're going to start with originally this recipe is a pomegranate sumac salmon. And you know that I have sumac in my new spice line, but we didn't do a Kosher for Passover run of it. So what we do have in the new section of Kosher for Passover spices is this chraime, which is like a North African spice. It's a lot of paprikas, turmeric, sugar, and salt. So this is going to be the basis of our Kosher for Passover version. Always remember, though, if you can find Kosher for Passover sumac, excellent. You can make the recipe as it was intended.
Okay, so can I even make a little promo here, because you were showing me
that you can come back anytime.
Thank you. I really may take you up on this. So there's a new Jamie Geller Kosher for Passover spice line that is now available both in Eretz Yisrael,
in Israel, Canada, and the States.
Amazing.
So we have Hungarian rub, we have this chraime, and we also have a Galilee garlic and herb. So very, very Israel, very good for World Mizrahi, and it's something called Negev Gold. So
you really covered all the directions.
We really tried.
Safona, Negba,
and
Yama,
Hungary.
Kedma,
So for those of us from the old country, totally.
Beautiful.
Okay. So right now I'm going to start with, again, whether it's sumac or whether it's chraime or whether you're using, really what's in here is a bunch of paprikas, turmeric, a little salt, a little sugar. So you could just, if you have that in your pantry, don't feel stressed to use this. Use what you've got in your pantry, but something with a little bit of red to it. Okay, that's what we're going for here. Now to this, we're going to add lemon juice. You know, I always love a little bit of lemon, especially when it comes to spring citrus and fish, right? It just goes fantastic.
You already see all the colors.
Yes, I love the color, right? I love it. Pomegranate. We always try to bring in, especially when I cook with you,
The Sheva Minim.
Sheva Minim from Israel, the 7 species. A little bit of garlic to balance things out here. Like I said, my family's from Transylvania, so Hungary before the war, Romania after the war. We just garlic everything garlic. And then, because it's you, we're adding, instead of bees honey, Ceylon date honey.
Hey, Seofi, beautiful. So we're going to really have the feeling of the ideal Pesach, which Moshe Rabbeinu tells them already in Mitzrayim. On one hand, there's the Karban Pesach, but as soon as they leave Mitzrayim, he says, now you're going to combine it with the 7-day matzah eating festival, which really can only be performed once they get to Eretz Yisrael.
Right, okay.
So at their first Pesach with Yehoshua, they must have been so excited to have the Sheva Minim to join with them, because they didn't have dates. They don't have the Sheva Minim in Mitzrayim.
Right.
So beautiful.
So this is so nice. We just, you saw that, 10 seconds, whisk it together. You start to
smell it.
You have the garlic, you have the paprika, you have the Ceylon and the pomegranate, and then we're just going to just drizzle this, or pour it really. This is not a drizzle, this is a pour. Okay, let's just pour it over the fish. Now, you can make this. I know the first question people are going to ask, can I make this with fillets? Do I need this side of salmon? So first of all, absolutely, you do not need. You can make it with individual fillets. That's beautiful. If you wanted to pre-plate it for the Seder. I happen to love, when I'm entertaining and for the holiday, to really have this side of salmon. It's one of those things, it's so easy, right? You just buy it like this, and then when you come to the table, it's like one of those ta-da moments, and it just, you're entertaining with ease, and it's elegant, it looks beautiful, and it's just a great way to, to make an impression, let's say, at the table. So I'm just doing a teeny bit of salt, a teeny bit of pepper, and I actually I wish I would have had my pastry brush. I don't have it here now. I'm just going to spoon some of this extra sauce take a few minutes, make sure over the fish, and then it goes into the oven. Can you actually remind me, you can grab the pomegranate Sumac salmon, it's the middle one here. If you flip the page, I think I do it at 375. Let's see how good I remember.
350.
350, okay, thank God the Rebbe's is here. I told you I can't cook without her anymore. And really depends on the size of your fish. I would say 18 to 20 minutes. The idea is you want to just be able to press the fish and it will spring back lightly. That's when you know it's done. And then when it's done, no fork in this. This is not anything you want to pierce. When it's done and it comes out of the oven, you want to cover it in foil and let it sort of just continue to steam in its heat, and it will finish cooking. And then you'll have like a really nice, soft, buttery, fleshy fish.
I always wondered how you know. It's touch and go, literally.
Correct. Touch and go.
You know what I love about this? Just as you said, that was so quick and easy. So you can come to Leil HaSeder as an Isha Chashuva, as the Mordechai says, and present a beautiful dish without really too much effort. So when we were discussing which foods we're going to be preparing, so you had mentioned fish, and I was so excited. So why did you choose fish?
Well, first of all, I think that we're used to always entertaining, especially because Shabbat makes us think about the holiday meals. And so it's customary in Shabbat to have a fish course. But when it comes to the big holidays, I really, really do love it. And I think it's just, again, when I do that side of fish and that side of salmon, it feels festive, it feels important, it feels chashuv, and so I love it,
It's beautiful. And your husband was just saying how he loves gefilte fish, which basically...
His favorite basically isn't like any fish other than gefilte or tuna fish. So, I married a very, very easy guy. You should know. I'm going to enjoy all of this stuff.
Hamish, yes. Beautiful.
I'm going to enjoy all this stuff with my kids. They love salmon, so we'll have that together.
Excellent. So the gefilte actually started because of Shabbos, so that you're not taking out, borer, you're not selecting. But this fish also, especially once it's filet, that's phenomenal. So I was excited for Jamie's selection of fish, because fish play a major role in the story of Mitzrayim.
I was waiting for, why do we have to have fish? Why is she so excited? I'm just going to show, this is a nice preparation idea, a presentation idea. We're going to sear some lemons. So you're going to put them cut side down on a non-stick pan till they get just a little caramelized and brown, and it would just beautiful, will look exquisite on the platter.
I love these tricks of the trade. Yeah. Jamie, thank you. When I can start to have guests again, they're going to be so impressed. They're going to say, Shani, what happened to you over Corona? And they're not going to know that the secret is time with Jamie Geller.
Hopefully they've been watching us. Hopefully they do know. And really, we're going to simply, decorate it with some pomegranate arrows and nana, mint leaves, also very Israeli, and the seared lemons, and it's just going to add some to the beauty. But while these sear, you were talking about how fish played a role.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't mean necessarily in the makod of Dam or Tzvardeya, where the actual waters of Mitzrayim were affected, but rather the Midrash and the Gemara, Masechet Sotah Daf Yud Aleph, talk about the women. How the women in Mitzrayim who were defiant of Paro's decrees of all the Kol Haben Hayolod Hayora Tashlichu, and the women of whom Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Avira say, B'schut Nashim Tzidkaniot, Shahayu Boto Hador Negalu B'nei Yisrael Mitzrayim. And it wasn't just Shifra and Pua.
So can you define that for those?
Yes, indeed. Thank you. It was in the merit of the righteous woman in Egypt, through whom all of Am Yisrael were saved. And we just read about in Parshat Vayakhel their mirrors, the special mirrors, the Midrash says, that ultimately contributed to the wash basins of the Mishkan. Well, those mirrors were taken with the women together with fish. That these women...
I never knew that.
Yes.
I've heard about the mirrors, how they beautified themselves, and they wanted to make sure that they looked lovely, for their husbands and attractive, but the fish.
Yes, so even those mirrors they took with them to make lovely, and also as selfies so that they can look in these mirrors with their husbands.
The selfies actually began in
Egypt, 100% with copper mirrors. That's
Jewish
exactly
women.
it. And they wanted to show their husbands, with all the visual effects that we have on videos today, that don't look at me exactly the way that I am now, because I'm a slave also. Rather, let's remember how beautiful we were in the past, and let's project for that for the future as well, which is why, even though the husbands were far away, and that was Paro's plan to thwart the demographic growth of Am Yisrael, it was the woman who said, no, we're going to keep on having children. They would schlep an hour, 2 hours to their husband's workplace with the mirrors, but they would also they would draw water to bring to their husbands. And the Midrash tells us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu performed a miracle, that they would also have many dagim, little fish. Fish would come, and we know in Chazal literature that fish symbolizes fertility, right? It's actually the sign of the month of Adar.
Yes.
But it's the sign of fertility. So they would bring bowls of hot water and bowls of fish, and the fish was really symbolic of the means through which they were going to ensure that they were going to conceive.
First of all, wow, and what blessing they had. At that time, they were having 6 babies at a time, right?
Keres achad, that's exactly it. Which, by the way, I'm so happy you made salmon, because, salmon, they lay, I think it's 10,000 eggs at once.
Wow.
And what do? They go all the way upstream, right? So against the tide. And just like the women in Mitzrayim, really, when you eat your salmon, we should be talking about the devotion, the determination of women like Shifra and Pua, Yocheved, Miriam, Bat Paro, of whom we find also by the waters, by the sign of continuity and the sign of redemption.
Beautiful.
And
that's
something
stunning,
to
just
talk
like
about.
our seared lemons.
Beautiful.
So that we're going to save them, and then we're going to put them on the platter right before serving. I always feel inspired when I hear about how the women, it was in the merit of the righteous women that we were saved from Egypt. But I also feel a little bit of pressure and stress, like how can we live up to those women? What can we do now in our days? Because it seemed like what they did is, we can't relate to that. And even the specific examples, obviously, we don't have the same type of challenges. What can we do in our day to be those righteous women and to carry that theme on while you pass me the water?
Excellent. I think that, speaking of water, that's a great question, because you're right. Thank God we don't have the same challenges as they did with all the decrees of Paro. But if you look carefully at the decrees, whether it was thwarting the growth of Am Yisrael or separating the husbands from the wives, again, to know that it was really the power of the women who made sure that there was going to be shalom bayit. There's a famous line from the big fat Greek wedding, right?
Yeah, my big fat Greek wedding. Oh my gosh, I haven't thought about that in movies so long.
Exactly, but I think about it all the time, because they say the husband is the head, but the woman is the neck, right? That we're the ones who can create the avirah and decide where the head turns to. And I think that was part of the essence of the woman then and now, because Chazal say it wasn't just that time in Mitzrayim, but just as you mentioned, Rabbi Yeshua says it's Lil Shimurim, the same watching over, the same guarding, and the same determination of the woman. B'schut nashim tzidkaniot b'chol dor atidina b'nei Yisrael lihigael. Right, in every generation, we have that power. And what's that power? I think about those copper mirrors that help us sometimes not get stuck in the present. Right, not just think about whether it's Corona, whether it's difficulties with child rearing, whether it's politics. We're going to try not to talk about politics, but Mizrahi has numerous programs regarding the upcoming elections. But with regard to the way that we see things now, to not let it get to us. And I think about that every time there's reason to get depressed, to say, wait a second, and what is this power? We find that there really are different explanations. Because I'll say, isn't it amazing that women in every generation are able to overcome the challenges? That's because they are toanot uperkot. Toanot uperkot.
Which means?
Does that mean they're bearing, they carry a burden, and then they relieve the burden? Referring to pregnancy and childbirth. That it gives us this power to know that we're not going to be pregnant forever. Remember that feeling?
You do feel like that. You do feel, and then some smart woman says to you, you're not going to be pregnant forever, and you believe her only because you've never seen a woman who's pregnant forever, but it's unbelievable. Like you just feel like this is my life.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it's difficult, and but we know that it's worth it. And if we have this chut, we do it again and again.
And again.
And part of that means that, exactly, that we're not, we don't just see things the way that they are right now. And that, I think, is the power of overcoming the challenges, that we can do it. And that's why we can bring geula, because we know that whatever galut we're in, it's only a temporary situation.
Wow. Okay, so first of all, again, thank you for the inspiration. I want to comment on a few things. I want to tell people what we're doing here.
I saw the olive oil.
Yes, olive oil we started with. We're making chraime. Then I went in with my garlic. That's my signature spice. After that, we have bell peppers cut up. Any color is nice. Chilies. Hot pepper, a jalapeno or a chili, whatever you like here. And then I'm adding some tomato paste. Now, this is one of the chef's secrets, right? Obviously, we speak a lot about fresh products, fresh produce, but canned products. There are a few secret ones. Canned tomato paste, never leave home without it, like ever. You add it to anything, it adds that little bit of that umami flavor, that special something to any dish. I add it to every sort of braised, stew, soups. Now we're adding it to our fish here. I'm just going to sear it here at the bottom of the pan. I actually want to release the flavor, and like serious chefs, like real trained chefs, not like cookbook authors. This is tomato paste is a chef's favorite. You can always substitute it if you don't have with something like marinara or something like ketchup. Like those are backups, but I always have tomato paste. It's the base of so many dishes. Careful of the splattering. So I salt and peppered everything here. This is the basis of our North African chraime, which is like a Moroccan dish, which is served at, I would say, Middle Eastern, Israeli, and Sephardic households for Shabbat, Rosh Hashanah, and Passover. Very, very, very popular. Now you see some browning starting here at the bottom of the pan. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a little bit of water and we're going to deglaze the bottom of the pan. That browning, that caramelization, that is all the flavor. You've noticed I've taken a flat edge wood spoon and I actually see how it's coming up now.
And that's going to add to the flavor.
And that's all of our flavor. So first we create the flavor, then we build the flavor like this. We deglaze, we bring it into our pan sauce, and this is the basis of our pan sauce for our chraime, our Moroccan fish.
I love how we're bringing in, from the Pacific Northwest and from the Mediterranean, Moroccan, and really kibbutz galiot here in Jamie Geller's kitchen.
Yes.
And I see that in your cookbook you call this the best Moroccan fish.
Oh yeah, right. Well, because it's the best. It really, really, truly is. Now, typically some sugar would be added here, a little bit of salt and pepper, but because I have my chraime spice, I'm going to go ahead and add that. But if you don't have the chraime, no pressure again, just add a little bit of sugar at this point, and then I'll show you what to do next.
So the chraime adds sufficient sweetness.
Yes, the chraime in here, this is a mix of sweet paprika, hot paprika, a little bit sugar, salt, and turmeric. So this is and we're going to add more of it later and layer more, but for right now, because it has a little bit of sugar, it adds the sweetness. Now we're not going for sweet here, we're just not going for spicy. It's like it's like a perfect balance, So that's coming in. We're going to let this kind of simmer and do its thing for usually 10 minutes, but we'll just go back to it when we're ready. And I want to add some garlic cloves. I'm back with my garlic.
Do you remember how Tu B'Shvat, we spoke about the transition of seasons, how some people even have a Seder and they go from a white wine to a pink wine, a rosé, and the red. So I feel with the salmon also, we went from the pinks and now we're in the reds, as you can see.
We
That's
did.
right. We're in the blossoming of spring.
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
if you open up Shir Hashirim, which we're going to read all together, again, everyone this year, really at the climax of Chag HaPesach, on the very last day, the Shabbat, which is Shvi Shel Pesach, there are so many hues of colors, and they're predominantly the red, the Shoshana, the rose, the beautiful sfatayim, the lips that are described. So we have a lot of Pesach color here in the month of Nisan.
I love that you share that, because when I think of Pesach, I'm not thinking so deep as you. So I'm thinking spring, green, etc. So that's why I wanted to bring in my mint and my citrus. But I love that this is actually satisfying that desire as well. We're going to go to the second part of this best Moroccan fish. As a reminder, we have our sauce gently simmering away. Let's make sure.
I wish everyone could smell this. It's delicious. And you're right, the garlic definitely adds here.
Yeah, of course it does. And the whole cloves are beautiful. I want to make sure this is on a low flame. It's simmering over there. And now we're going to prepare our fish. So typically this recipe generally is done with tilapia, which is not the most healthiest fish. I really gave up eating it a long time ago, although I love it. So Dover sole, grouper, a flounder, but in Israel, all those are great. Salmon is great too for those that like a lot of. They're comfortable, like we spoke about, gefilte, tuna, and then the next one, right? The next most popular Jewish fish is salmon.
Salmon, definitely.
So I actually pulled out my gloves already. But here in Israel, Denise or sea bream is on every single menu. And I thought, let's use something that's sort of native here to the Mediterranean that they catch, and so that's why I pulled the sea bream here together, and we're going to make a little bit of a sauce for this. So to this, we're going to add olive oil, again with my olives. We're in Israel.
Colors.
So remember I spoke about you can make this at home without my spice. So we added the sugar before and the salt, and here's where we would add a lot of paprika and turmeric. So if that's what you have, absolutely no problem. We have my chaime, we're going to do it because everything is perfectly balanced and measured in here, even with a little bit of sea salt. So nice, like good 2 hefty tablespoons of this. It's going to go in. And the heat from here, it's a delicate heat, the chaime. The heat's really going to come from those chili peppers that we added. So you can not add them if you don't like a lot of heat. If you like a little bit of heat, add them. If you like even more heat, include the seeds. So that's that. A lemon juice. And I think that we're good here. So now what we want to do is just quickly give this a little bit of a mix. We're going to dunk our fish fillets in here so that they're nicely coated. That will give them a lot of flavor. And then we're going to pour on the excess sauce. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay.
And it's so wonderful, especially when we're talking about the fragrances in your kitchen and the calming and uplifting notions that we have as a result. Keep thinking firstly how much we appreciate, especially now, this season, our sense of not just taste, but our sense of smell.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you know what?
After Corona, and we say the brachot of the reach for those who can with so much more kavana. And again, Shir Hashirim, Chag HaPesach. This is the time of beautiful, beautiful fragrances. So much so that there are really 2 types of fragrances that are mentioned in Shir Hashirim. One are, and you were mentioning some of them, more the flowers and the berries and the plants. And then there are the more pungent spices, the spices that were used for the ketoret, the levona, again, of frankincense, and the cinnamons, and those express 2 different aspects of our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. One is more at the beginning, again, the lighter, the springy feel, but Pesach is really meant to serve as the beginning of blossoming, right? It's spring, and we hope to get to those really, really deep spices, the spices of the ketoret, the spices of Har Hamor, the spices of Har Hamoriah.
Beautiful.
So what to look forward to already.
I love that. And I feel like last time we cooked for Tu B'Shvat, I had a lot of those like sort of flavor profiles in here. So here we switched it up just a little bit, but I love hearing and learning about that always. We dunked our fish, and if there's any excess sauce, you pour it on top. And then we're going to add here fresh parsley. Can you see in here? Because this is like very exciting.
Yes, now it looks like a spring garden.
Yes, correct. So even though we had that like sort of blood red kind of deep feeling here, there's still something very herbaceous and citrusy and bright about what's going on. So that's that. And then we're going to actually put a lemon. How about that? Now we're
garnishing.
Somebody take a picture of this, totally. Yes. So how stunning, right? And this is even lovely if you want to serve it, if you got a beautiful pot that you could take it straight to the table, but if not, you can absolutely, it will be easy to platter, right? Everyone come serve yourself. Okay, and then we're going to just let that go. We want that to poach gently.
So it's on a low heat still?
Yeah, like a low. Can you see the heat actually? Just want to make sure we're on. Yep, we're on, we're good.
For about how long?
10, 15 minutes just to cook through. It depends if you're a thicker fillet or a thinner fillet. Obviously, salmon will need 10, 12. Something like this is pretty thin, so we'll check it in 8 to 10. So like that, easy does it.
Wow, excellent. So we have 2 of our courses already taken care of.
And then soon we're going to get to the desserts.
So Jamie, now that we took care of 2 of our courses with fish and fertility, we're moving on to the theme of apples. And what are we going to be preparing for our delicious Pesach chametz-free dessert?
This is a Passover, kosher for Passover apple crisp, which I would venture to say one tiny adjustment and you should be making this year round. It's so light, it's so delicious, it's a wonderful way to end a meal, and definitely a favorite. So I'm really interested to see the connection between apples and Passover.
So personally, I'm very Ashkenazi, so throughout the year I make not an apple crisp, but a cranberry crunch. And
we don't serve it during the meal.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a sweet
My husband said, what is dessert doing at the meal? I was like, well, why, if you could have dessert at every course, why not? Exactly. Like, what's wrong with that?
Exactly. Yes. So we don't even have to wait till the end of Shulchan Aruch. We can have this as part of the meal itself. And the theme of apples. If the women took the mirrors and we discussed the fish and the water, and they would massage and watch their husbands, then they went under the apple trees. Shir Hashirim, the Midrash tells us, Tachat hatapuach orarticha, shama chibla imacha, shama chibla yeladitcha. That I'm going to go under the apple trees just as your mother did. That's where she planned your conception. That's where she gave birth to you. And this was perpetuated generation after generation amongst the women.
I'm covered in chills.
Because the apple, as I'm sure before they were beautifully cored and peeled, they're full of seeds. And originally, the apples in Eretz Yisrael did not look like these gorgeous, Washington or Macintosh apples, but rather they were more like crab apples and full of seeds. So when the Dod in Shir Hashirim, when the Mashal for HaKadosh Baruch Hu turns to us and says, K'shoshana ben hachochim kein rayati ben havanot, and that's what I think with all the colors of the reds that we see, that you are the rose or the lily amongst the thorns.
You look at that. Speaking of that, we're checking on our red color, and you could see the fish went from translucent to opaque, and that's how you know it's done. Literally 1 more minute here, and it's simmering and poaching gently in here, and oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
So these are the colors that are used to describe the Ra'ayah, the B'nai Yisrael, the feminine persona. But then the Ra'ayah turns to the Dod, the male persona, so to speak, Am Yisrael Takadosh Baruch Hu, and says, Ketapuach v'atzei haya'ar kein dodi ben habanim. As the apple tree is such a fruitful tree amongst the trees of the forest, so is my beloved amongst all the men. And therefore the apple tree has become the symbol also for fertility, but particularly the fertility under oppression, under
Did we know this? I feel as you knew this.
It's a beautiful, beautiful midrash, and therefore each one of these foods, note the achila together with the sipor, it's part of the story. But you don't know how much a part of the story it is. Because of these apple trees, Chazal say not only did they conceive under the apple trees, but they gave birth under the apple trees. They don't want the Egyptians to know if they were having a baby boy. Right? That's the end.
They said them giving birth in the forest, or is that to the reference under the apple trees?
Exactly, under the apple trees. And then they would give birth to these children. And as the way that it was described in Yechezkel, the children are coming out, with their blood and muconium. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent malachim to come and to cleanse them. And the women were like chayot, like the Mialdot say. They're like wild animals. We can't even stop them from giving birth. We can't come and kill their baby boys. Ki chayotena, they're taking care of them. They don't even need midwives. And then they would come and they would clear the area so that the Egyptians wouldn't know that they gave birth there. And what would happen to these babies? If they would bring them home, the Egyptians would kill them. So the Midrash goes on to say, this is the sort.
I'm covered in chills. This is so intense. I know
and
this.
And it is, right? This is the Cabbage Patch Kids, right? That the earth would absorb the children, right? Mother Earth, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and nurture them with the minerals and take care of them and bathe them. And then when they were old enough, they would literally sprout from the ground, showing us that we're all like the Eitz HaSadeh, going back to all of our beautiful agriculture here. And then they would come back, adarim, flocks to their parents. And the most beautiful part, I think, is that when these young children were at Kriyat Yamsuf, and Chazal say that we were all privy to the revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So these children, who are now adults, would look and say, Zek Hili Van Vehu, this is the HaKadosh HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is the one who took care of me when I was an infant, which just teaches us.
I'm really brought to tears. I knew parts of that story, but not this whole circle. It's so unbelievable.
It is. And that's the secret of the apples. The apples, the optimism, again, the determination, the overcoming of all obstacles, of preventing the tzvaot, literally the armies of Am Yisrael, from being created and creating a nation. It just tells us also how significant the apples, the fragrance, the colors, the memories are that these children remembered. Yes, we remember the apple trees and we remember HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But that's not even the end of the significance. It gets even better. This is my favorite part. That, again, when we think about all this, we're thinking this is very nice, and Baruch Hashem, we're going to bring apple crisp to the table, and this way we get to talk about it. But actually, the apple is on the Seder plate. Where is it? It's in your charoset. I'm sure you have a recipe for charoset.
My grandfather made it. I'm going through like maror, charoset. It's apples, wine, and chopped nuts is ours. My Ashkenazi.
Beautiful.
Everyone makes a different version, of course.
Exactly. Some Moroccan, Eretz Yisrael make it with dates.
Of course.
Excellent. And do you have any recipes, by the way?
We have charosets from around the world. It's a fantastic, and it's a video showing you how to make each of them if you want to try something that's also not part of sort of your, personal custom and heritage. So absolutely, we can link to it below.
That was brilliant. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to watch this video. That's right. So the question is, where does the charoset come from? Yeah. The Mishnah, Pesach Pesachim in Perek Yud, Arbe Pesachim, that we're all learning now for Daf Yomi, again, talks about Chazeret, the world, the Jewish world. So that's right. Mizrahi has a daily dose if you want to listen to 2-3 minutes every day. And the Mishnah talks about chazeret, which is the maror, parperet tapat, again, bringing out the matzah, the korech, that we all understand. And then it says, and you take the chazeret with the charoset. So the Mishnah says charoset, right? Where do we get charoset from? It's not in the Torah. Yeah. So the Tanakama says, yeah, it's a nice thing, but it's not a mitzvah. And Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Tzadok says, no, charoset is a mitzvah. So the Gemara says, okay, if you say it's not a mitzvah, then why bring it to the Seder table? Why do we even have charoset? Right. So Rabbi Ami says, mishum kappa, because it's like an intermezzo. It's like a sweetener, right? Wow. So this is perfect after our spicy Moroccan fish. Yes. Again, to have a little bit of that sweetness to get rid of the maror taste of the maror. Right. But Rabbi Lazar Bar Rabbi Yaakov, who says it's a mitzvah, what does that mean? You ready? You had chills before?
Oh, gosh.
Rabbi Levi says...
I'm going to have to take a day off after this. Yeah, go ahead.
Mishum hatapuach. The charoset is there to remember an essential part of Sipor Yetziat Mitzrayim, which is the tapuach. Wow. And Rashi says, yes, the optimism of the woman, to remember the apple trees. How can you tell the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim without talking about how we survived, how we came out as 600,000 members of Am Yisrael? Because if you tell the story and you only talk about the Avodat Parech, then you're missing part of the entire Yeshua, the salvation. You're missing the activism and
the survival is the story, not the slavery.
That's exactly it. So you need the tapuach. And Rabbi Yochanan says, well, it also comes to remind you of the tit, of the clay. And I love how we're going to make apple crisp with the clay looking, on top of it. Right. And that's really the machloket then. The Gemara continues, well, if you make it a little more fluid, a little more apply, then it definitely is going to remind you more of the apple. Right. And if you make it more nutty, I guess, again, in every sense of the word, that now you're going to get stuck where you are, then that reminds you more of the clay. And I think it really is depictive of the perspective of men versus women, that the clay, again, the pyramids, the bricks, right, the cement, that's more stationary, right? That's what the Shalah calls the strength of direct light, right? Meaning more dormant, seeing the situation that's in front of you right now. But the apples are more fluid. We go with the flow, and we even our basic nature, we have to. And it's the power of the apples then that enable us to transcend. It's the apples that remind us, wait a second, no matter how difficult the present is, we know that there's going to be a future. We know that there's going to be fertility. We're going to taste the sweetness, not necessarily the bitterness, even when we're going through difficult times.
Amen. Amen. And I will never look at an apple the same way again.
Excellent. So this is perfect for
it's such a
Pesach.
common, right? Fruit, like it's not considered one of the more fancier, elegant, exotic fruits by any means. It's like, oh, an apple. But now I feel like it's everything.
Rich with symbolism.
Yes.
That's right, especially on Pesach.
So from Rosh Hashanah to Passover, I feel like it should be, it's so funny because the pomegranate is often associated with Israel or like a very Jewish looking fruit. I feel like the apples.
The apple.
Yeah,
this should be
ours.
This is the strength of our survival. Is the apple tree, the fertility, the sweetness, yes.
Unbelievable. You said something also really important about remembering the story, not just remembering the slavery, but remembering the survival. That's really, if not half of the story, the whole part of the story, because that's the resolution. Think about that also in the Holocaust. When I speak about my grandparents, they should rest in peace. We always call them survivors, survivors, survivors. And I think that that's important for us to think about the Purim story, because we always think we're slaves in Egypt, And we have to remember and we have to look and we have to delve into what all of that meant and how intense it was. But the survival is the story. That's why we're here.
Exactly.
I love that.
It's both surviving, and the apples remind us surviving and thriving.
Yes.
Right? That not only did Paro not succeed in thwarting us from multiplying, but we Paru, Vayishritzu, Vayirbu, Vayatnu, V'ma'od Ma'od. And we came out really as Tzva'ot B'nai Yisrael. And as you said, there are really two different perspectives. When you come to the night of the Seder, are we only going to speak about how we were victims throughout the generations, right? Whether it was Purim, pogroms, crusades, the Holocaust, are we also going to talk about those stories of survival, those stories of chesed that took place in the camps, the stories of uplifting, and I think that both are important components.
Correct. And obviously the challenges that's what makes the other stories uplifting, inspiring, aspirational, etc. So you need to tell the whole story, but we must not forget the redemption part, of course.
Exactly, which is why we have to eat apples on Pesach.
And in case you went through the whole Seder without really focusing on it, when you get to the dessert, this will be your entree to speak about this.
Just keep on eating and keep on talking.
I love it. Now that I've wiped my tears away, I can't even this was the most inspiring. I feel like I learned so much. I feel like it's not just about, do we have room for dessert at the Seder? We must have room, and we must make something apple inspired.
That's right. And you get to decide whether you're going to make your charoset more aptly or more crunchy and more like the cement. The question is, what are we going to remember for Leil HaSeder?
The apples.
In the end, the apples. The apples. Yes, that determination and optimism and thriving. And in the Yomi Paskin, like Rav Elazar bar Rav Yaakov, that it is a mitzvah. So we have to have.
Of course, after hearing that, who cannot think it's a mitzvah? This has to be a mitzvah. If you noticed here, these have been peeled, cored, and sliced like about an hour ago. And they generally, did not turn their colors. So the idea here is cold water with a little bit of lemon. Okay? So that's just like a little bit of a tip here. Now we have this in here, and we're going to put our apples, sliced apples. You can, I slice them, you can do chunks, whatever you like. That's really, it's like a sort of a rustic apple crisp here. And the idea is just simply, to just cut them into the pieces that are quick and easy, and there's no wrong way to cut them for this.
We were talking about the cinnamon before.
You know what? I forgot my cinnamon was coming back at the end. It's so exciting.
That's right. You see, we've developed from the sweet smells to the more poignant smells.
Yeah, and we were in the pink and the red and then the brown. It's we took this all.
Now we're in the Beis HaMikdash already.
Wow,
see that? The intensity
of
our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm just so happy right now. I can't even. This is going to go in the oven at 10 minutes. If you want to just look for me, I think it's 375. Is that what it says?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay, I got that one right. Get that in the oven, and then we will work on the topping. Okay, so again, very reminiscent of our charoset, but just a little bit more because it is dessert. So we're gonna have our brown sugar in here.
Is this one of your tactics? This is how you prepare your toppings in a Ziploc bag?
Oh, well, it's just because I'm going to go ahead and bang.
Avodat pareh.
We've got everything represented. We've got full circle over here. So nuts, whatever nuts you love. I have pecans and walnuts that are crushed. Now the reason I'm putting it in here, if everything was crushed this finely, I really would have no problem. But I feel like my walnuts are a little bit coarser than I want them. So they're going to go in here. But again, if it's not very coarse and you like the consistency, no need to go ahead and do this step of them being in the bag. Now Now you can add here, this is really optional, kosher for Passover, graham crackers. We found these here in Israel, kosher for Passover crackers. It just gives a little bit more body to the topping. I just feel like I don't need the extra carbs. Why? So I'm going to leave them out, but the recipe does call for that. So that's really up to you. It's a preference thing. But I think the nuts and the sugars just do a fine enough job at top.
Exactly.
And keep it a little bit more, simple, basic, healthy, and clean. And so the only reason here why is because I wanted to just get into what it felt like to be a slave in Egypt.
Exactly.
But cooking, I always say, is not slavery. No. Slavery was so yesterday. We were having way too much fun. That was just a joke. Of course, not even, but this is fun for the kids.
Okay, we're going to let them do
so
this.
Give me 1 second. Don't speak because I just want to give it a... I feel like
it was perfect. I was going to say.
Get something out? Yeah.
The stop music.
Totally. This is great. And the truth is, really, you could make extra of this, and this could be your mix into your charoset. The only thing that we're really doing different here is in the charoset, I add wine, or you can add grape juice, and of course, that's not cooked. It's fresh. That's my recipe. But here, we're going to go ahead and just have a little olive oil to bring together sort of coarse crumbles on top, and then we're going to put this on top and continue baking the apples until it's soft. Another 30 minutes after that, and this gets a little brown and crumbly.
And we bring the shemen tov, shemen tov, yeshakenu medishikot piki tovim todecha, miyayin leshemen tu rak shemecha, and shir hashirim.
Of course we do. And you could use olive oil, which is, obviously that's my favorite, coconut oil, grapeseed oil, whatever oil you use on Passover. Just a little something so that we get some kind of texture and crumbles here, to the top. And you see it starts to come together like a little bit more crumbly, so it gets a little bit of that body that we're looking for.
Yeah, it looks like the dry charoset.
Yeah, correct, exactly. And then the clay or the bricks, I did not plan that, but I'm so happy that this worked out like this. I feel like you had nevuah, like you had some prophecy when you were picking these recipes. Like we didn't even know that the mallet was going to come out, or that this, like all the spices and everything. So we're going to leave that here. We're going to wait for our apples for about 10 minutes to go. And in the meantime, I want to show you how to plate the salmon. Is that a good idea?
Perfect.
Okay. And just like magic, but really, we're doing all this in real time. In the time that we cooked and learned and got inspired, we literally made 3 dishes.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, nothing was prepared in advance. Everything was done in real time. And this is why, again, I'm so happy you're here in the kitchen with me. We're going to say a little tefillah, and together we are going to lift this and transfer it, and hopefully it won't break. Now, I do want to say one thing. I'm doing this prematurely because you're here. Because normally this is can be served warm if you'd like. Often I just serve it at room temperature. So once it cools off, it's less likely to break when you're transferring it to the serving platter. So we may get a little breakage, but hopefully not.
But this is also perfect. I know you didn't plan it this way, but the night of the Seder, Pesach is all about zrizut, right? They didn't have time for anything. They did everything very quickly. And Rav Hutner has a beautiful, beautiful piece, his first ma'amar in Pachad Yitzchak on Pesach, how that's the essence of matzot, right? That shouldn't become chametz. So too, mitzvah haba'aliyatcha al tachmitzena, that we shouldn't let mitzvot pass us by. But so too, we should do everything to try to condense the amount of time, the physical dimension of time. So I'm so excited. We're doing this quickly. We're like, in the Pesach spirit. Amazing. Here we go.
So I'm going to.
I am nervous.
So you know
what? I'll take this
one. I'm so of course.
All right, and I was going to say
I'll go on the heavier end.
I'm going to take the easier side.
I also have my hand in the glove. So one sec. First of all, let me just release it from the bottom. So because we don't want anything to hold it.
She does this with such ease.
Well, let's wait till it's done. You see how it's so tender and delicate. Yes. So that's going to be our only, the fact that it's so good and cooked so perfectly. Yes. Look at you see the juice. It's like, okay, I'm really scared. I don't know that we're going to make it. I'm wondering.
Can we take it on the platter with the...
It's not going to, let's see what we can do. It's going to go quick, okay? 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
Okay, it's okay. Watch.
Yeah,
put
beautiful. Okay,
and we're going to clean up, okay? Don't worry. We're going to fix it. I love that because that's real life. I'm going to show you exactly what to do. Okay, so surgery has completed. We may remove our gloves.
Excellent.
If you wanted. Now you'll pass me the paper towel if you don't mind. Clean. And you're not going to even see that break, okay? Watch what we're going to do. Now, everyone loves this platter, but the second you put something on it, then it just looks like a white platter. They should have put the designs like on the side, because once the fish is on it,
that's why we're decorating it. Ze keli van veo, hidur mitzvot. We're going to make this fish look gorgeous.
Okay.
And I love how we're doing this. I'm glad that it came apart, so that this way we get to learn how to put a fish back together again.
So first of all, just like this, right? So the more you put here, the less, right, that's going to even draw attention to it. And you could have more lemons if you wanted, etc. So that's step one. Step two is our pomegranates, and they're going to just conceal, right? Even though they technically are kind of in season all year, I find them to be a little less colorful right now, but hopefully the next round will give us some better color. Your temple, your cheekbones, the dode says to the ra'ya. It's like it's beautiful as the rimon. And that's one of the descriptions, again, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to us, remembering the rimonim and the pamonim on the bottom of the me'il of the Kohen Gadol. Okay, and now, find the break. Find the break, tell me. Right, so wherever, like we covered it.
That was great.
Yes.
They're like, where's Waldo? Can anyone see?
Right. It looks like these were just strewn on, but they've been strategically placed to cover our break. And here we have our stunning, stunning, stunning salmon. If I was serving this and I had a knife with me, I would just give this a little chop. We definitely don't want it to hang over the plate. But that's that. And that is one. Now we're going to finish off our apple crisp. Okay, look here. The smell. We are looking for our topping.
I was going to say, where's our topping?
We worked so hard on it.
Yes, indeed.
And I worked so hard, I forgot to add the cinnamon. So, brown sugar, cinnamon, crushed nuts, and if you wanted to add any of the crushed kosher for Passover cookies, and a little bit of oil. Alternatively, instead of the brown sugar, you could add maybe some more nuts. You would definitely need more nuts because that's going to give it some of the body. And then you could do honey or ceylon, for the sweetness.
All we're missing for Haroset is the wine, but we're going to have enough wine over Pesach.
By this time, by Shulchan Aruch, we've only had 2 cups.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So, but I still think we'll have enough otherwise. Oh my gosh. The 4 cups, first of all, I drink like grape juice because I cannot handle.
Oh, really?
What about you? Do you
So
do wine?
I drink 4 cups of wine.
Of course
and when I'm not pregnant, that's right. And my children always tell me that I drink more, obviously, on Leil HaSeder because women are chayavot in the Arba Kosot. Mishum she'af hein hayu bo tohanis. We were not only part of the Gzeirot like Tosfot is, but Rashi and Rashbam, we were the ones who helped facilitate and catalyze the miracle with that determination of the apples and the mirrors and defying Paro's decrees that we were talking about. So I'm just going to share this. I can't believe I'm sharing this on camera. So what happens is that when you drink wine, you're supposed to feel that chirut, and I really do. I feel that Pesach, the opening of the mouth. I feel, and I just start talking and talking and talking and singing, depending on Felicia who's around. But it really,
I get sleepy.
And I get very giddy, and you're supposed to feel that. You're supposed to feel the chirut, and it's supposed to enable you to talk about the story more, to talk about your own personal chirut. I think everyone has stories this year of difficulties and overcoming difficulties, and we turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the end of our Magid, even after the 2nd cup of wine, and we say, wait a second, we've done this before. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, thank you. Asher Ga'alanu. We're supposed to feel not only as if we actually left Mitzrayim, but that Hashem redeemed each and every one of us. That Asher Ga'alet Avutenu, and therefore we know that this is going to happen again, which is why
we need to know that.
That's right. And each of the songs of Geula are a shira, right? Belashon nekeva. So even the Hallel that we say, Rav Soloveitchik beautifully says, we don't say a bracha for the first part of Hallel on the night of the Seder because it's spontaneous. We feel that redemption.
We do.
And then eventually we're going to sing that Shir Chadash, the final one.
First, Amen. And I want to say what I said before. I feel the redemption coming too in the lead up to the Seder and hearing you and being inspired by you. I was moved to tears, and I can't wait to share this over with my family. My daughter's here in the background. We have to remember to talk about the apples at the Seder, but I don't think I'll ever forget. And I think it's just stunning. And we spoke about going from the pink to the red to the brown, and I just feel like we've this whole cycle here with the fertility and the story. I'm blown away. And I'm excited to actually not have to wait to Passover to eat this. I'm going to eat today.
I was going to say, that's why Shloshim Yom Lifnei HaChag.
Okay, thank you. I knew I was yotzei something.
Yes,
Okay,
we're supposed to already be involved in, just as you said, all the Pesach preparations. There's so much to think about, so much to process, so much to talk about. And I always feel this pressure, Baruch Hashem, not with regards to the food, and we have to make sure not to lose sight.
Yeah, and I hope that I showed things that are easy.
Amazing.
Everything, we did it in real time, everything you could do as quick as possible. This should not be the pressure. This should not be the pressure.
And look at this, a feast in minutes.
Correct.
And a wonderful opportunity to really retell the story, fulfill the mitzvah of Sipur, which is the mitzvah also of chinuch, to make sure that our children appreciate what our values, our past, and be'ezrat Hashem, our future. And I really see, the women of Mitzrayim and the story of redemption taking place right here.
On this table.
Exactly, but we're going to bring it from here to our Seder table, to our hearts. Again, retell the story, and I'm looking at our delicious dessert with the spices of Har HaMoriah. That's how the Ra'aya ends the story of Shir HaShirim that we say this year at the very beginning of the Seder, at the beginning of Pesach, on the night of the Seder, and the very end of Pesach, on the last day of Pesach, the Shabbat, the Shvi Shel Pesach. What does she say? We may not always be ready. Barach, do melcha dodi litzviya ola ofer hayalim. She says, run away again. But this time, don't go to Hari Bater. Don't go and separate yourself. Go this time to Har Hamor. Go to the mountain of the spices and wait for me there. And instead of crying at the end of Shir HaShirim, thinking that, I can't believe we do this HaKadosh Baruch Hu all the time. We're casting Hashem off once again. I'd like to believe that maybe this is the year that we're going to run after HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we're going to meet him, Be'ezrat Hashem, on Har HaMoriah, with a delicious feast, with our ketoret, and Be'ezrat Hashem, to have everyone join us there with our zvachim, with our psachim, with Jamie telling us the best way, again, to roast our Karban Pesach, Be'ezrat Hashem. And we want to thank you. Thank you, Jamie, for really...
Can we hug? Oh my gosh. Oh, it's so crazy. It's so
We're starting to feel the geula, really.
I think that's my first hug in a year of a non-family member. We'll remember it forever.
And hopefully also to the Laila Hazeh Mikol Halilot, wishing you all on behalf of World Mizrahi and a special Hakarat Hatov to Jamie Geller.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
It's my honor and pleasure.
Wow. Chag Kasher v'sameach bari umiromim be'ezrat Hashem. Have an uplifting and delicious Chag.
Healthy, happy Passover.